Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. I want to welcome you to East End Books Ptown, and we got a great crowd tonight, so we're really excited to have everybody here. Would have been even more excited if my extra chairs had arrived, but it looks like everybody's adapting. If you were here last summer, you know that the view was not this stunning, gorgeous view. It was slabs of cement and everything as the park, this beautiful public park was being constructed, and now we've got this. It's fantastic out there. So we're really thrilled to be out there. I wanted to, just a couple quick announcements. If you're watching the live stream at any point before, up until about 5 minutes before this ends, and you want to get a personalized copy of the book, you know, to John, Sally, whoever, versus just a signed copy, if you buy the book, it immediately comes to me, the email. So you just put in the memo section, hey, I want it to John, whoever. And I'll look at that before Blair goes, and then we'll do that. Otherwise, if you buy it, it'll be a signed copy by Blair, but not to anybody in particular. And then we'll have signed copies available afterwards. I don't know, when are you leaving town?
I'm not leaving until Sunday. So.
Okay, so I gotta actually have another book order of his books coming in, so we'll get some more signed copies. So we'll have plenty of signed copies here. Okay, so upcoming events. Our next event here is actually off-site. It's tomorrow. No, Wednesday. Our next event is tomorrow. Sorry, it's a book signing at 2 p.m. And that's the, we've got a great author in with his new book, Side Guys. So that's a lot of fun. And if you're here at 2 p.m. tomorrow, he'll be inside signing books. Then our next book event and book talk is Wednesday at Ptown Art Society, the 4th year with the Hebridean baker from Scotland with his new cookbook. We'll be there again in his kilt. There'll be food and libations. And there's a new documentary premiering about the Hebridean baker that'll be shown at Ptown Art Society. And then we're back here again at this store on the 19th. I think that's Saturday. Very exciting. We've got this book, Blood and Hate, which is Dave Wedge, who is Casey Sherman's film producing and screenwriting partner, and they make a lot of big movies like Boston Strong and other stuff. He's got a new book out on the marvelous Marvin Hagler, the boxer, and he will be talking with State Representative Kip Diggs, who was a pro boxer. So that's going to be on Saturday. The rest of the events are on the website. You can see them. One thing, save the date, August 15th. I'm co-chairing an event at the Commons that'll benefit the Theater Offensive from Boston, which is a theater company for everyone, but it focuses on providing opportunities for Black and brown, queer and trans playwrights. And we're building a theater in the Fenway. I'm chairing their campaign. If you can't make that in August, December 7th, I'm co-chairing an event with Christy Cashman at the Quinn, at the newest restaurant that Ken Falk has designed called Budasol, which is beautiful. It's like being in Sao Paulo. Okay, so Judith Newcomb-Stiles is right there in the front row, this phenomenal artist and author, and she was here last night with her hit book, Hush Little Fire. So if you didn't make it last night and want to get a copy of a book like this one that you can't, like Blair's, that you can't put down, grab her before she leaves, and you can maybe get a copy of the book. Okay.
It's about the naughty people of welfare.
And they are naughty indeed. It's very exciting to have Blair again. As he mentioned earlier, the last event we had with him, there was a monsoon weather, so we had to make a mad dash inside, and it was a very cozy, intimate event, as they say. And so I'm really glad that we could be out here, and I'm glad that your book was not out last summer, that it's out now, so that you got this view. Your publicist will be happy when we do the live stream. So anyway, Blair, of course, is the author of The Sign for Home, which was longlisted for the Center for Fiction's first book prize, was the winner of the Doris Lippman Prize, and was selected as both an Indies Introduce and Indies Next pick. And that's kind of like getting onto the New York Times list for independent bookstore. So that's fantastic, and congratulations again on that. He's written dozens of plays that have been performed all over New York City's downtown and cities across the country and around the world. His TV work as a writer includes Queer as Folk on Showtime, California Connected on public TV. His first-person essays have appeared in Out Magazine, New York Daily News, Huffington Post, and more. He's had many loving relationships, and apparently none of them are here. We'll hear from them. along with writing, he also works as an ASL interpreter. He's also been an actor, director, and producer, and was once a bartender for the summer on Fire Island, an experience that greatly informed this novel. And, you know, New York Times had many good things to say about it, and the one word that I think really describes it is heartfelt, and it truly is. And they said, you know, hit the dance floor with a coven of queer witches in 1980s Fire Island, and this gay fantasy romance about finding magic, love, and family in the face of tragedy. A heartwarming LGBTQ plus novel for fans of steamy romance like Red, White, and Royal Blue. And he is in conversation with Phil Jimenez, who is... Oh, I'm sorry. People that watch a lot of these know that one of the things I'm bad at, one of the many things, is pronunciation. Thank you. Say it again.
Jimenez.
Thanks. Who is a Marvel comic book artist and has a lot to tell us as well. So we're very excited to have both of them here in conversation, and afterwards they'll open it up for audience comments, and then we'll do book signing after that. If you want to get the book, if you haven't already, when it ends, just go inside, you can get it, and we'll be out here signing. I do have multiple colored pens matching the cover of the book that you can use, Sharpies. Thank you.
Hello. So I'll read this. It's like a 7 minute, 7.5 minute, 7 minute, 50-second reading. And it's highly edited, so if you've read this, you're like, I think something's missing from that chapter. It's just, I try to keep these shorts because I actually don't like readings. So not a good way to start a reading is to tell people you actually don't like readings. No, make a note. Okay. So just a little bit about the book if you haven't read it. It's about a young man who moves to Fire Island when he's 29 after the death of his partner and ends up living in the attic of 3 older gay men who are kind of these disco queens who turn out to be a coven of queer witches. This chapter I'm reading is chapter 15, and this is just because I wanted to kind of set up like the love interests that, you know, are in the book. And the things you need to know is when Joe first arrives on the ferry, he sees 2 men. First, he sees this deckhand, this like arrogant deckhand. He thinks this straight guy laughing at him. He's this like super hot, blue-eyed, you know, sunburned guy. And then the other thing he sees is this vision of like daddy manliness, pulsing muscles, this mysterious man that in his mind he calls Gladiator Man. They're the 2 things you kind of need. Now, this chapter starts at the end of an evening when Joe's had his first night as a bartender. He just learned to be a bartender. He was really scared about it, but one of his roommates gives him this charm that kind of helps him get through this first night of bartending, and he feels like really excited. It's 4 a.m. He finishes, you know, cleaning out the bar, and he goes to the beach to chill out on Fire Island. And something else you need to know, at the beginning of every chapter, something called the Disco Witch Manifesto, which is this, basically the rule book of the Disco Witches. So each chapter begins with this, and this is chapter 15 called Sunrise Surprise. Disco Witch Manifesto number 13. The great balance is our eternal aim, but we can never stop dancing, even if the great darkness is spinning in the DJ booth. At 5:03 a.m., Joe had finished mopping the floor and hosing down the sludge mat. In order to blow off steam before bed, he decided to watch the sunrise on the beach while finishing the leftovers in his Charlie's Angels lunchbox. Barely 70-foot walk from the bar door, stepping onto the beach at dawn was like paradise, with its miles of empty sand, raging ocean, calling gulls, and spectacular awakening sky. As the sun's blazing head tipped over the horizon, a strong breeze blew salty, sweet air up Joe's nose. Just then, from the corner of his eye, Joe noticed a tall, brawny man in a gray sweatshirt and jeans walking along the edge of the water 100 yards down the beach. It was him, Gladiator Man. Remembering Ronnie's advice to never miss opportunities, Joe dropped his lunchbox and darted onto the sand, waving his arms wildly. Hey, you, can you talk to me for a minute? Hey, stay right there, just for a minute. The gladiator man stopped walking, adjusted his stance so the rising sun illuminated his perfection, and then waved back. Joe's going to meet the gladiator man. It was going to happen. He planned to ask him where he lived, talk about how he was new to Fire Island, let him know he was single. He would not talk about Elliot. Elliot is his lover who had died. He hoped he wasn't appearing too enthusiastic. Ronnie, his best friend, had once told him that after you know a guy likes you, it's necessary to play it cool for a while. Ronnie said, guys without barriers look broken. But that morning on the beach, there wasn't a cool bone in Joe's body as he charged across the sand like a desperate soldier at Iwo Jima. The closer he got, the more handsome gladiator man appeared. His massive pectorals and shoulders pushed against the fabric of his gray sweatshirt. His two hairy forearms, muscular and foreboding, hung by his sides with hands thick and powerful, like two leashed pit bulls ready to either embrace or kill. He was all that Joe had ever desired, sexually speaking. Hey, I saw you the other day, Joe huffed and puffed, a cramp in his side, the soft sand shackling his legs. I wanted to say hi, but you left before I could. He was just 15 yards from Gladiator Man when another voice called out from behind him. Hey, buddy, yo, buddy, where you running? You forgot something. Joe turned. There, shouting from the top of the steps, was that blue-eyed deckhand. He started down the steps and across the sand toward Joe. He appeared to be soaking wet under his Pines Ferry sweatshirt. What do you want? Joe asked, annoyed, hoping the Gladiator Man wouldn't hear. Hey, you forgot your Charlie's Angels lunchbox on the steps, the deckhand teased as he dangled the campy lunchbox. Couldn't this straight idiot see Joe was in the middle of something important? And who went swimming in the ocean at 5 a.m? I left it there on purpose, Joe said. He turned back toward the Gladiator Man, who had begun walking away. Did he think Joe and the deckhand were together? Hey, Joe shouted, wait a minute. Well, which is it? The deckhand said from behind him. You want me to stay or go? I wasn't talking to you, Joe snapped. Yeah, right, the deckhand said, a little confused. So what are you doing on the beach this time of the morning anyway? Taking a run? Look, Joe said sharply, I can't talk right now. Then he turned, but when he turned to look for the Gladiator Man again, he was gone. Joe fell to his knees and punched the sand. Fuck! The deckhand stepped back. Jesus, what's wrong? Did something bad happen? Yes, no, I was trying to catch up with that guy. You know, someone. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you before. And no worries, the deckhand said, as he pulled a mini bottle of Johnny Walker from his board shorts, took a swig, and then offered it to Joe. Joe noticed the deckhand's eyes again. Even while bloodshot and glassy, they were an even more stunning blue than before. For some reason, near the ocean in the morning light, his eyes appeared almost cobalt blue, and they were framed by long black eyelashes flecked with wet salt and sand, much like the rest of him. You know, it's not safe to go swimming drunk, Joe said, especially when no one's around in case something bad happens. I didn't swim drunk, the deckhand said. I swam hungover. You woke up hungover and decided it was a good time to go swimming? Never went to bed. I took a swim to wake up. I live over in Sayville. A passenger gave the crew a couple of bottles of Jose Cuervo yesterday, so we had a little party after work on the beach. I guess my boys ditched me when I fell asleep. Wouldn't be the first time. Well, they sound like real class acts, Joe muttered. Don't be so judgy. The deckhand yawned. I have to work the first boat out, which means I'll need to hitch a water taxi back to Sayville. Might need another dip first. By the way, you said you were trying to catch up with someone. Who? Who do you think, Joe said? That big muscular dude? The one you scared away? Muscular dude? The deckhand smiled and gestured to the empty beach. Nobody on this beach but us and the gulls. You sure I'm the only one who's been drinking? For Christ's sake, Joe said. How hungover are you? You didn't see that huge guy with a beard literally standing just over there? Chill out, shortstop. Don't get your skirts all bunched up. The deckhand smirked. Sorry. The deckhand smirk and gay-baiting comment were the last straw. Joe mustered his most threatening glare, which wasn't very threatening. You always act like such an ass? Just joking with you. The deckhand made the peace sign. It's weird that I'd miss seeing another human being that close by. But then again, I wasn't, really focused over there. His eyes momentarily latched onto Joe. But then he quickly looked away, like he was embarrassed. Or maybe I'm still a little drunk. I better get back in the ocean and make myself right. He yanked off his sweatshirt. His lean torso was more muscular than Joe had imagined, with a perfect little patch of hair at the top and a small treasure trail between his belly button and board shorts. When he turned and jogged toward the water, Joe noticed he had almost a comical gait. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with his legs, though. Still long and hairy and too sexy for a straight guy. Then Joe noticed something odd. The deckhand had huge, paddle-like feet, with toes ever so slightly webbed. Thus the reason for the funny jog. Any awkwardness disappeared, though, as soon as he dove into the waves. His arms, like twin porpoises, sliced through the water while his legs kicked fountains. When he was 20 feet from the shore, he dove under and disappeared. 10 seconds passed. 20, 30, 60. At 90 seconds, Joe walked to the water's edge and recounted the CPR class he had been forced to take at his old job. Tilt the head, make sure nothing's in the passageway, then press your lips. At that very moment, the deckhand, like a deranged seal, exploded from the waves, enrobed in a spray of iridescent water droplets. He was gasping and laughing. That guy's nuts, Joe thought, before looking back at this stretch of beach where he had last seen the gladiator man. Sand, bushes, trees, and nothing else.
Wow. Listening to you, hold on. Is that on?
No, it was on.
On? Hello?
On.
On. So listening to you read, I was reminded that you were also an actor.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Long time ago. I asked because that leads into a couple of my questions for you. But the first one, pardon me, it's about, these first few questions are going to be about your career. And just some general stuff about the way you write, because I'm always really fascinated about approach. Has your career spanned 25 years, 30 years? How long have you been a writer?
Oh, I started writing, or decided to be a writer when I was 29. When I went, right before I went to Fire Island. When the book is loosely based on me, and when I was 29, I decided to be a writer.
So, which leads into the next question, which is, when did you realize writing was a profession that was available to you? Was there a moment you realized you could sling words together, you had something to say, and you could get paid for it?
Getting paid as a writer. Please buy my book. Okay. We don't need to talk about that part. I don't know. What happened was I decided to be a writer. I started writing. It was actually kind of an interesting story. As I went to Fire Island, and that summer, I'm like, I'm going to start a writing group. And so I was on the beach, and I'm in my little go-go shorts, and I'm like going, hey, do you want to be a part of my writing group? And one of the writers was Michael Cunningham. And I had no idea who Michael Cunningham was. And I'm like, do you want to be a writer in my writing group? And they're like, yeah, Michael's written a book. And he's like, oh, sure. And so it was Michael Cunningham, this guy named Stanley Siegel, who eventually became a published writer, and me. I think we met 3 times that summer. But I didn't know I could actually make money at it. I didn't expect that. But then after that, I started writing plays. There was a bar in the East Village that gave me a space to put plays up. And my first play that I put up there did really well and kind of became a cult hit and was optioned for TV in London, and then I did it in London and stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of luck
Yeah.
with this stuff.
Or maybe you're just really good at what you do.
Possibly.
Just putting that out there. Actually, and this goes to format differences. So you've written TV, theater, novels, and I'm curious if you lean into the differences, the strengths of those mediums when you write, or do you approach it the same, solving the same kind of problems, just adjusting for format?
I don't know if I think of any of that. I think what happened, why I started writing novels, I never thought I could write a novel, am I too close or too far from this?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was writing for TV in Los Angeles. I moved back to New York. The TV thing wasn't happening there, and so I didn't know what kind of writing I was going to do. And then I'm a writer, but I'm like wasn't writing a lot, and so I kind of committed to apply for an MFA program and join a writers group. And then I had an idea for a play, and I started writing, and I realized it wasn't a play; it was a novel. But I didn't know how to write a novel. But I thought, what the hell? I have this writers group, and so I just started doing one word after another, and I kind of approached it as the narrative is the stage directions. We have people that are involved in theater here. It's like, Franco moves stage right. And so like kind of started like that's the narration. Franco moves stage right. And then dialogue. And so it would be very dialogue heavy. And then I kind of expanded the stage directions and started having fun with that. But I didn't know I could do it. And then I wrote a lot of this book and my previous book here, interesting enough, and at my friends Colleen and Steve's up in Falmouth. Just know, this book, if you haven't read it, has a lot to do with Provincetown. The Coven actually starts in Provincetown. Anyway, so I did this then in 2020. I had this draft of my first novel, and I asked a friend if he could show it to someone, James Hanahan, who wrote Delicious Foods, and didn't nobody give a shit about Carlotta, if he knew someone in the business that could tell me if it's shit or not. And he showed it to his agent, and his agent called me a week and a half later, took me on, and then sold it that summer. And so I was very lucky. But as far as the formats go, I don't really think about that. I don't really think about genre when I'm writing. I just kind of like write it. I start with character. I first develop the characters. I write an outline. I go to the first beat of the outline. The characters are like, fuck you, Blair, we're not doing this. And then they go and they write the story. And I just follow along. Pretty much, that's my process.
As a slight follow-up to that, or do you start at the beginning? Or do you start with the moment and then write back and forward to it?
I start with a scene. I generally start with the beginning. And again, that's the first beat in the outline, which then after that, the outline's gone. And then they kind of like start telling the story. And then about a third of the way through, actually sometimes even earlier than that, I'll know the ending and I'll write the last chapter. And then I just kind of aim for that and see what journey they take me on for. And then I'll like be writing. And then in like chapter 4, Joe will say, or let's start the first book. Cyril, the first book is about a straight deafblind Jehovah's Witness and his gay interpreter. And they're both kind of, they're both telling the story, one in second person, one in first person. And I'm like, for the deafblind guy who's really handsome, I don't really want Cyril describing his like good looks. He needs like a girlfriend. I'll just have a girl in this one scene, and then I'm like, I'll give her the name of my friend Bernard's daughter, Hannah, and she starts talking, and she's really cool, and I'm like, oh my god, I love her, I want her. So then I have to go back to the beginning of the book and put her in it, and that's kind of how I write. It's like I write, I discover something, then if it's something good, I go back and I put it in it, and then proceed again and go back and forth that way.
I love that. I'm always fascinated by writer process, and especially character discovery. I just have a couple more process questions, and I want to talk about the book, but really I'll be asking questions about you. One is actually goes back to the acting question, which is performance on a novel page. This question might be too abstract, but I'm really interested in what are the components you make a character act in text, in print, that makes them real.
Wait, can you say that in a way I understand?
So it's interesting. So with an actor, we actually see their physicality. We listen to the way they speak. We can see in their eyes emotions, right? But when you're using only words, text, what are ways that you make characters act, if that makes any sense now?
Well, I mean, it's like there will be like pauses and stuff like that. Like I love ellipses. Like you'll see like lots of ellipses and dashes in mine, to give them like breath and like, or if they're stammering or something. But you do, as far as like just descriptions of what's happening inside their brain or the tone of their voice you use to make them. That's a really good question, actually. Now that I understand it, is to make them feel like that's how you do it. You do it like, again, with some stage direction, but also with what's happening internally for them, but also with the pacing of the language and with also the tone of the words and language that they're using helps. I think that's how I do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually that's a perfect.
What's kind of interesting is, so I used to direct my plays when I would first write them, and I'm like just very much one of those directors that would give people line readings and stuff like that. And I'm so much better. It's so much better for the world that I write novels and don't work with poor actors. But it's like I realized that like, oh, this is what's great is I get to get them to do the role exactly like I want them to do it, which is why I love writing novels.
It's actually why I like working in comic books, because it's just usually me, and I get to make them do anything I want, assuming my editor approves.
Yeah.
And they act the way I want them to, panel after panel. Final question in this. I think we talked about this a little bit over coffee the other day, but I was really curious about your cadence, right? Like, so I read the book and was immediately taken literally by the rhythms of the text. And I was curious, does a Blair Fell book have a sound in the way a Stephen King book has a sound? Like a rhythm, a pattern? Are you aware of that?
No, but our friend Miguel said, Miguel is a translation teacher at Rutgers, professor, and he's like, this book, and I'm not going to do his accent. It will come out Russian anyway. Anytime I try to do a Spanish accent, it comes out Russian. But Miguel has this very thick Spanish accent. And my first book, The Sign for Home, he had like over 200 sticky notes in it because it's a lot about interpretation and stuff. And he's like, this book, your new book, it's sparkly. Your language is very sparkly in this book versus like the other book, which had like a different this. So I don't know if they do. Actually, I don't know.
Excellent question, or excellent answer, excuse me. But this will be a really good question. So, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is Gaytopia, right? Which you mentioned early on in your book. And I wrote here, I recently wrote a story about my childhood tendency to create paracosms in my search for a queer utopia. Do you know what a paracosm is?
No, and if you could explain for the audience.
So paracosms are fantasy worlds that combine aspects of numerous other worlds into sort of like crazy quilt melanges. And apparently, LGBTQ folks are much more likely as kids to fantasize about these things. They spend a lot of time creating imaginary worlds for obvious reasons. And so my note was, Fire Island, Palm Springs, Provincetown are sort of obvious American gaytopias that come to mind. But my question is, what is Gaytopia to you, and have you found yours?
Well, I mean, not because of this audience, but in Provincetown, of all of the places that I've been, is certainly, I wouldn't say Gaytopia, because it's other things about than just being gay here that makes it special. It's like it's like all the citizens of this that like kind of originated this place, the hippies, the freaks, the crazy people that made it a beautiful, amazing place. So this would be like the closest to that, but the Gaytopia is told by Ronnie. Ronnie is the best friend of Joe who drags him to Fire Island, and he's like, what is that? Which is like the bad part, like it's the id, the id is the like really like hedonistic. Come on, people. Help me out here. Yeah, Ronnie is the id. Ronnie's the id part of myself. Ronnie's the one that like wants to give everyone a makeover. Ronnie's the one that wants to tell you how to fix your life. And that's what Ronnie is. He's this motivational speaker, and he's the one that like tells Joe, it's Gaytopia, and Fire Island is anything but a Gaytopia, in my opinion. There's utopia means no place. The actual Utopia means no place. Eutopia means a desired place, And what's the opposite?
Dystopia.
Dystopia, thank you. So Fire Island is close to a dystopia for me, because I'm not like a beach guy. Like, I don't want to sit on the beach, and I don't really like to go out dancing. And yeah, so it's not really like my jam, and I like to bike and like do a lot of other stuff. And by the way, this was a problem like on this tour, because like my people interviewing me would say, "What did you love about Fire Island?" And I'm like, "Nothing." I mean, Joe leaves Fire Island at the end, but the whole thing is, then I thought about it, and I did have this one really special, amazing moment on Fire Island, and that was with my friend Jeff Palumbo, who I actually dragged out to Fire Island to clean toilets at the motel, and he and I, so in like April and May, I think I was out there in like the beginning of May, it's a wasteland. There's no one there, especially in the middle of the week at night. It's a little terrifying. So Joe and I were in our 20s, and we're pretending to be Hansel and Gretel. And we're running in these dark, black as night boardwalks, going, Hansel, come! No, Gretel, the witch is going to get us! And we're just like running like through Fire Island, pretending to be Hansel and Gretel. And like, that's my favorite memory of Fire Island, which is not your typical Fire Island memory. So anyway, yeah, not my Gaytopia. This is the closest to it, but he was more, the Ronnie character, he was selling Joe on coming to Fire Island because he didn't want to go alone. So he tells it's like Gaytopia, it's just like men dripping off trees that are wealthy, that are gonna just solve all your problems. Yeah.
Whenever I speak about this, I tend to use the word queer, and I am one of those people that uses the word queer in a fairly broad definition. Probably its broadest. And so the world that you're describing of hippies and freaks and outsiders, that's sort of when I think of Queertopia, it absolutely includes them. So a dear author friend of mine has often said that no matter what time you are writing about, if you're writing a period piece, you're still writing about now. Do you believe that?
Yes. Yeah, no, I do. I mean, I think the point of writing this, I feel like I have to like give more of my face over here because you guys are like losing out. Sorry.
Look up.
Is that I wanted to like capture this moment of what it was for those of us that are like of my age, 42. And who, we're growing up when like everyone was dying and what that was like trying to fall in love. So I did want to capture that period, but it was also, it's about getting over heartbreak. That's what the book is about. Yeah, so it's about any time. Yes, I actually think that's true. I wrote here that the novel deals deftly with a lot of actually heavy concepts, including fear, loss, grief, suicide, plague. But it's completely charming, adept, and engrossing, and enchanting, I read in a few reviews. The book is considered quite enchanting. There was a passage on page 170. Hold on. Let me get there. Pardon me, I'm looking at my grandpa glasses. I know Joe said turning back, but at some point you have to get the fuck over it, right? And I believe he's talking to Howie. Sometimes that's true, but it's forcing yourself to forget working. For me, mending a broken heart requires going on all sorts of emotional detours, ruminating on what might have been. This passage hit hard. Hoping for the impossible, and lots of raging and crying and raging. Stopping the process too early on can prolong the suffering or even leave thick scars on our souls that affect all of our future relationships. This passage just hit really, really, really hard because I think a lot about how we, as a community, as individuals, and as a collection of people, have healed or not healed since the AIDS crisis. And I guess I wonder, we talked about this briefly, and I just wonder if you have any ruminations about that. The legacy of AIDS. Well, I mean, it certainly carries on. I mean, one of the unfortunate parts of that, or legacies of that, is so, besides losing all these amazing people, was I was in ACT UP, and the book's also about Joe's transformation and waking up with Act Up and stuff was so many of the fighters in that fight like ended up with substance use disorder and taking their own lives because there was this guilt about those who survived. And Joe like struggles with the guilt of having survived his lover and all of that. So I think that goes on. And I mean, what's so devastating right now with this awful fucking world we're living in is how much we fought and we're losing so much about what we fought for. I mean, we still have to fight. We have to fight again, but it's just all those people that fought so hard and like watching this awfulness. One interesting thing there's this thing in the book called The Great Darkness, which is this force, the thing that makes everything awful that happens in the world. There's a description of it, which I couldn't find if you paid me. Actually, if you paid me, I would find it. But, and anyway, it's like what's happening in the world right now is the Great Darkness. The reaction towards people with AIDS was the Great Darkness. And that's where, when you were talking about whether writing a book for today, I wrote this mostly during the first Orange Pig administration. What's interesting, actually, my first book, Sign for Home, is very much in reaction to that. Much more, which people would never recognize, but it was about what happens when your guardians lie to you about things. How do you make a decision to be happy? Where this, it was just, I was writing during that time, but we are living in the Great Darkness, and the book is a prescription of how to fight the Great Darkness. So that's kind of question like 3 questions ago, but I realize that's how it's responded.
It's a conversation.
Thank you.
On a slightly lighter note, but something I was just really curious about. Each chapter, of course, begins with the blurb from the Disco Witch manifesto. And then I was curious, did you write the manifesto before, during, or each chapter? Is it its own document?
That's so interesting. Some readers are asking for the whole thing. There's no whole thing. That came about me, I'm not sure where. I think it was during, like, after the first draft, maybe in the middle. I don't know. I don't remember. I remember thinking, you know what it is? Colin had showed me this book. Colin is one of my best friends and ex-husband, and he showed me this book called Faggots and Their Friends Between Revolutions. Yeah, which is an amazing document from the 70s, which was a mimeograph document that they would, this lesbian illustrated, these gay guys from like the Moosewood Kitchen and the Lavender Hill Mob or whatever, put together as like a manifesto for, gays and lesbians. Queers are like, actually, it's a different meaning of queer back then.
Sure.
But very much about like the hetero overlords. And I'm like, reading this, I'm like, oh, I love this. I love this. I want the Disco Witches to have something like this. And also, because the book goes into some magic and then you leave the magic for long stretches, I'm like, I need something to remind the reader that the Disco Witches are always there underneath everything. So that's why I decided this. So I kind of thought, like, what wisdom do I have at all? And which means I had to go, like, to my notes, because I don't have it at the top of my head. And it just, like, I thought, like, what do I want to say? What would I want to say if I were a Howie? What would I want to say to younger gay people? And so kind of like there, and then I'd be in a chapter, and I would just kind of match the chapters with the manifesto topics and stuff. But it ended up working out really well.
It's fabulous, actually. It's
You could illustrate something like that.
I could. We'll talk. So a couple things, just a couple questions about characters. Lenny and Howie could be my neighbors here in Provincetown. They're amazing. They are read instantly as familiar and knowable. I know these two people. And so, kind of a big question, but is there a cast of characters in the gay world? Are there types that we all draw on? And then do we fill in the spaces of those characters to make them familiar and dimensional?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, Howie and Lenny are actually based on real people. They were based on 2 of the roommates I lived with. This guy named Frank Cordino and Jerry Cervellino. Frank 6'2", like long hair, wears hats. He would build giant hats with lights and feathers to go out dancing at 4 a.m, and they would play disco all day long, with these mixtapes from, Michael Zorba and da-da-da, and where they... that dance, we're at the Saint. It was 1988. I was on 2 hits of X. Jerry was sucking on an ethel rag, and they just had this cadence. And then Jerry, get your shit out of here. Well, you're in the bushes again. You got holly in your hair, Jerry. Take the holly out of your hair. So they were just these hilarious guys, and their voices are in this book. Like, anyone that knows Frank and Jerry knows that they are Howie and Lenny. They weren't necessarily as wise as Howie and Lenny were. They were craven as any, gay on Fire Island. But it did have their spirit in them. I do think there is that type, the wise, snappy talking gay that we have in the community. So I'm not sure, but they were just based on real people. Pretty much most of the main characters are based on someone.
Yes, which I knew, but what was interesting to me is they each read as a type that I knew, I was familiar with. I'm like, oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. Yeah. And it felt like we all have, in collective language, a cast of characters that we draw on. Because when you say, like, there's so-and-so, we're like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is.
Interesting.
Yeah. It just struck me that it felt... Again, they were all very, very knowable, partially because I feel like I know them.
Well, it's also like, when you think of it, it's like, they're kind of like B. Arthur and, Estelle
Sure.
Getty, in a way, from Golden Girls in certain ways. So I think that's just, like, deep in our consciousness, Yeah.
How do you pronounce, is it Fergal?
Fergal.
This is just a question about his bisexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I wrote here, not to dovetail too heavily into identity and representation, but what is your take on making sure the spectrum of identity finds its way in your work if the work you're creating takes place in a gay space?
Interesting. Something I don't even think about that much. I mean, sometimes I'll think I want to make sure that there's enough different races represented, and they're also like, I wanted to make sure that the fact that Fire Island is a racist space is, like, called out. I wanted that. Maybe I was a little bit more mindful, but as far as the sexualities go, it's just with Fergal, it just, like, turned out that way. I mean, Fergal, what do they call him? Gun shy gay? Mm-hmm. I think he's still shifting, and I think that there are bisexual people, absolutely, 100%. But there's also that stage many of us go through where we tell people we're bisexual because we haven't accepted it necessarily. I'm not saying they're, again, definitely bisexuals, but I think Fergal's more gay.
Just a few more questions and we'll open up. I wrote here, can we talk a bit about magic?
Sure.
It's mostly because I deal with magic a lot in my business, and the rules of magic. But I just asked, what is your take on the rules of magic for a story? Do you have rules?
Yes, I had to... This is it. Like, I really, like, shoot off the cuff when I write. Like, I realize I'm a bricolage writer. A bricolage artist is someone, whatever's around you throw into your art. And that's what I am. It's like, okay, Franco, boom. Okay, whatever. I just, like, throw in there. And I dated someone named Fergal in London for about 2 weeks or something. He was a gravedigger son from Northern Ireland. He was really interesting. He didn't know how tall he was. I thought that was interesting. We went to a science museum to measure him. I said, Fergal, how tall are you? He was like 6 foot, I think. And he wasn't. He was 6'2". But I loved his name, so I always wanted to use his name in something. Fergal, by the way, turned out to be a conspiracy theorist, which is a sad ending. Oh. Not to this character. This is a fiction. But the real one, like, he contacted me a couple of years ago, and he's like, "Ugh, off the deep end." That was not really necessary to share. But magic. We're talking about magic. Magic. So this is the whole thing. So when I write, I don't really think I write first and then research later. So magic happens, this happens. I'm writing a historical romance, right? A one that I just sold that's coming out next year. And like, I just kind of write it first and then like, okay, you actually do need to know what happened there. You need to actually research that. And so like, how the magic worked is I wrote it all out. There was a lot of magic in it, went here, went there, all over the place. There were no rules. My agent said, a little too much magic. And I don't like that ending. And so I rewrote it. Was in Buenos Aires on one of my vacations, called Colin desperately. So I was like on like one of my breaking points. I can't do this. It'll never work. And he like talked me down. I was like, well, why not just make the magic really rooted in like life? Like it could be deniable. Maybe they even doubt it's happening, which I really liked. And I brought the magic way down. And then I sold it to Jess at Alcove Press. And she's like, it needs more magic. And so then I had to up the magic, but not as high as it was before, but keep that thing of this. And then I'm like, okay, you need to know the rules. What can they do? What can't they do? What do they know for sure happened? What they doubt happened? And so then I kind of made the magic. And then I got into a little bit of friends, my friend Chris Young and his partner Susan Ottaviano from the Book of Love. They had this book on magical plants. And so rooted some of the like magic and real plant stuff. But then afterwards I made the rules, then went back during revisions and kind of stuck to the rules a bit more.
Do I have time for 2 more questions? Yeah? Then we'll open up, I swear. One's a little heavy, one's actually very sweet.
Okay.
Ready? So here's a heavy one. Within the first 10 pages of your book, I was immediately struck by how class, capitalism, and status play such a role in the lives of gay people and have, it feels like, since forever. The idea of being interviewed for a job based on your beauty, desirability, appearance, because that's what men are willing to pay for, that's what they value, the currency they're willing to trade in, hit me like a sledgehammer and made me incredibly sad. Are we all just resigned to this? Is there another way of valuing each other as gay people? Or are we essentially doomed to being our bodies and our paychecks to most?
Well, first, I don't think it's only gay people that experience that. I was like talking to this book group of these really wealthy, beautiful Long Island women. And we got onto this topic because the class thing is very important because having been a bartender in a gay resort, there is this even though there's more mixing, I think, of classes in the gay world than in the straight world, maybe. I think some straight people might argue with that as well. I do think there's still this class thing that if you, at least on Fire Island, when you were a bartender, people might want to temporarily date you in the meat rack, but they wouldn't necessarily want to, be in a relationship with you. Because I felt that in when I was an actor in New York and like with friends of ours, Robin Scott, who you don't know, but anyway, there would be this thing like, oh, you're kind of trash because you don't have, a real job. I mean, even as artists, we still go through that, and you get that in these communities. I don't know if it's as bad as here as it is at Fire Island, but you feel that. But anyway, with these women, I realized all of them and me and all of us had some advantage if you look decent. That is a commodity in this world that we exchange on, and we don't really talk about that. I mean, there's being tall versus short. All of these things, get you certain places, and it's what you do with it. But it's something, I don't think it's only the gay world that suffers that. I think the whole world deals with that. In the gay world, it is there. I mean, there's that question, would you rather be wealthy or would you rather be beautiful? Hands up. No, just kidding. No, it's not you. But I mean, in the gay world, often it's like, I'd rather be good looking because then you can get the money. Oh God. Let's get on something else.
Okay. Final question. Quote, I believe this was Howie. And when the great balance is achieved, all of our lost lovers and friends will return to us. Joy will abound, and the dancing will last for days. Do you believe in real life happy endings? do you think the great balance can be achieved?
I think we need to believe it can. I think we need to fight for it, certainly, and work for it. I do believe, I mean, happy ending is like definitely been something like I like have fought for my whole life. And I think that's the other legacy of the AIDS years is like, fuck man, I don't want this to be like a sad ending. Fuck you. Fuck you, asshole. God damn it. I want that shitty interviewer in LA. No, I'm joking. He was great. He was really, no, I loved him. He was awesome. He wasn't. He was great. I was like, didn't sleep the whole night, and I was like really bitchy. And it wasn't him. It was me. Yeah. Anyway, I do believe. I really like. I think since that time of during the AIDS crisis, I've been like, I'm going to have a happy ending. God damn it! And certainly in my books, I'm like, you know, I like happy endings. You know, kill me. But as far as the great balance, the great balance is, so you have the great darkness and the disco witches are fighting for the great balance, and what it means is, you know, again, fighting for that joy, for, you know, joyous sex and joyous love and joyous friendship, and we've got to work for it. We can't just sit back for that, and like what we're facing now. Yeah, it's going to take a lot.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So we have any questions? Anyone?
Questions? Yes.
So, the first Gladiator Man was an apparition or real?
Say the question again?
Was the first Gladiator Man an apparition or for real?
I don't know. You'll need to read the book. We'll find out. I can't give that away.
He can tell you afterwards when we're.
Okay, fine. Next question. Were all three Gladiator Men the same Gladiator Man?
Yeah, it's just there's just one gladiator man. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the question over here?
Love the book very, very much. Phil mentioned this. I think you talk about Howie and Lenny, and you read these characters and they're so familiar. And in reading the book, I'm like, I wanted to know so much about all these other characters that you wrote. And it's truly Joe and Fergal's story, but are there other characters in here that you wish you could have expounded upon and tell more of their story?
Interestingly enough, there's this character called Elena, which is one of Joe's best friends. He develops. She's the daughter. She's in recovery, and she's the granddaughter of Dory, who's this 80-year-old bar owner, one of the bar owner of the bar that Joe works at. She actually had a whole point of view in the book. So there was chapters from her point of view, which was about like her working to get sober. She had this male lover that had come to the island, and I loved writing her, and I loved her character, but the book was too long. I always write really way too long, and my editor Jess was like, I think Elena's point of view can go. So she was gone. You know, when I first started writing it, there were a lot of other characters that I really wanted to explore. But I'm like, you don't have to make a series if you did that, and you know that's harder to sell, and so I like didn't do that. But well, actually, you know what's kind of interesting is like Saint Norman, by the way, is like based on a friend of mine who passed away named Don Norman in Los Angeles, and so he has a chapter where you get some of his backstory. There was a lot more, but no, there are other characters that I did have much more of a story, but I had to pull them back because you have to focus the book. Yeah, good question though. Thank you for reading.
Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right here, Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Anyone? Questions?
How do you come up with a falafel fry?
Can you
The gentleman in the white T-shirt asked how I came up with falafel crotch, which is a nickname the bartender is called.
Why?
Anyway, so on Fire Island, everyone gets nicknames, and what happens is the morning after Joe is, has his debut as a bartender, Lenny comes back and is like, "Oh, you just were great last night. Everyone's calling you falafel crotch," and Joe's like, "Falafel crotch? That doesn't even make sense. I'm Armenian. We don't have falafel." He's like, "Well, what's Armenian food that rhymes with crotch?" And Joe's just forget about it. So on Fire Island, like certain people would get nicknames, possibly because of their anatomy. Next question.
Anyone?
Question? I'm curious. Since you have such a diverse background with media, do you ever write thinking about two forms of media? Like this could be a play, or vice versa?
Not play. No, I don't. I think about it being a novel. That's kind
Only
of
a novel.
that's when I do it. I mean, supposedly I write very cinematically. There has been some interest in this turning it into a series, but I don't write for that. I just write it to be a novel. It's a good question. Yeah, I don't really think. I just like, what do I want to read, and that's kind of how I write. I don't think about the thing down the lane. Yeah. How many people have read the book so far? Okay. Oh wow, a lot. That's really cool. Thank you for being here. Any other questions? Yes.
I thought the audiobook was acted really well. Did you direct it?
No, I didn't. It's really interesting. The narrator's a gentleman named Daniel Henning, who's done like a ton of audiobooks. He did The House on the Cerulean Sea. He's kind of amazing. He wrote me on Instagram and said, "I love your book." Or no, he didn't read it. He was like, "I saw this title and I want to narrate your book." I'm like, wow, he was a little like pushy. Because I narrated my first book, so I'm like, I narrated my first book. But anyway, he's actually a really famous narrator for audiobooks. And interesting, Simon & Schuster did the audiobook. They bought the rights to do the audiobook, and they thought he was like a better fit for it, so he did it. And from what I understand, he's done an incredible job. Yeah, so I'm really happy about that. He's a wonderful guy, and he's kind of witchy himself, and also is very much involved in gay history in Los Angeles. So he's an amazing guy.
Blair, if I could just mention, tagging on that, and for everybody that buys audiobooks, you know that you can buy audiobooks on our website, and it's Libro FM, which is the independent bookstore provider, instead of giving it to the evil empire. Just saying. Okay, thank you.
You got that. You can buy the audiobooks on East End Books website if you want to. Joe.
Yeah, so there's characters in the book that are definite references to characters from New York City.
Yes.
So for instance, there was a Robin Bird reference.
Yes.
Is there a legal reason you couldn't say Robin Bird?
No, I didn't know where the character's named Chrissy Bluebird in the book. I just saw Robin. I told Robin that the book that she has a character in the book. I just saw her when I was on Fire Island a couple weeks ago. Because some people I name, like Jerry Herman, like I name, Tommy Toon, but then like because they're mentioned, but they're not in. And when they were in the book, I just felt like I wanted to be careful about that. And I wasn't sure where their character, I might want to do something, terrible with their character, but I probably could have just called her Robin Bird.
I just didn't know if there was some kind of legal aspect.
Well, there could be if I there's other people where I don't speak too nicely of that are based on real people that I had to be careful of. Although he's dead, so. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of people that are based on real people, but there's also stuff that I just made up. Like for Ronnie, like when I'm first introducing the Ronnie character, I'm like, oh, he was he's been rumored to be the lover of a secret Channel 10 weatherman. And everyone's like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I just invented that. There's no one that I was thinking of there. It really wasn't. But other people are real people. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that Ronnie has a really satisfying arc.
Thank you. Ronnie was, as I said, he was like me at my worst. He's like Blair at his most shallow and awful. And he was way more of a dick when I first wrote him. And everyone's like, ooh, I don't like Ronnie. And so I had to there's a scene where Joe talks about where, you know, he's like when he's still in Philadelphia, you know, he'll go on a date with a guy, but he always ends up like talking about his dead lover and crying and ending up at Ronnie's apartment and like Ronnie cuddling with him. And that was like, oh, I want to make Ronnie like a little bit likable at the beginning. But I like, and I did this in the Sign for Home too, is I like to see if I can take a character that's not likable at all and like convert them, which is fun.
Yeah. So you said when you're writing, you get to a certain point and then jump to the end and write the ending because you thought of it. Have you ever gotten through the book and had to scrap the ending you wrote and start over?
Well, I've only completed 3 novels, and I haven't so far. It's kind of more of like a feeling I aim for, and I know, like, I know what I want the characters to be feeling at the end of the book, and for the reader to be feeling at the end of the book. So I haven't had to scrap the ending. The big climax of this book, I had to scrap because my agent didn't like it, and had to come up with something different. And actually, I kind of pulled from something directly from my life for that, which was interesting. But yeah, I haven't had to do that yet. But you never know. Rico.
So, what would you advise to a person who has no experience in writing, but they have something in their head they want to get out? What is the first step? What do you do?
Okay, this is like my favorite topic to talk about because like I never wrote novels till I wrote one. You know, it's one word right after another. You write. I think I learned to write in my journals. Like there's that thing of finding your voice. Like your voice. Like when people read my books, they can hear my voice. I heard someone was complaining about it recently. Like I'm reading a book, but all I hear is your voice. And I'm sure you meant it lovingly. But it's that like just write, and then you find your voice where you're like, oh, I can use this as a tool. That's what I would say. It's like I'm no different than anyone else, you know, other than like a little bit crazy. But it's still just like one word in front of the other until you're like, you know, the first time I wrote something and I got excited about writing was before I became a writer. But I was sitting at the Pink Rose Tea Shop in Philadelphia, and I was in one of my little moods, and I had a journal, and I just started describing what was around me. And I got excited. I'm like, oh, this is neat, because I really described that thing, and I described this guy with a camera, he was handsome, and I said, beautiful people shouldn't take photographs. I have no idea why I wrote that, but there was just something about that moment that was true, and it got me excited. And then I, you know, wasn't a writer for like a decade after that, but it was just, I think when you write in your journal, when you just write and you start seeing that the words can actually express what you're feeling or thinking, I think that's how one becomes a writer. But no one's different than me if they sit down to write.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
So a couple of just practical answers to that. One is actually knowing what tool you're using. This is as basic as it is. Do you like typing? Do you like journaling? Do you like writing in your notes on your phone? Like having a place to put your thoughts in words, that will help. Like just having a place to start. The second is I've taught art for many, many years, and we do this art group here at Gifford House. And the number one thing I see, particularly with adult men, is they are not used to learning when they're older. They're not used to failing. And the thing is, not everything we create is going to be a masterwork right out of the gate. You know, and so a lot of people try and they stop. Like, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this. And the number one thing I would tell you is just don't stop.
Yeah, and also to add on to that, you just reminded me, I mean, it's an Anne Lamott thing, you know, with shitty first drafts. Oh, anything I write is a placeholder for something good later. Like, I have to tell myself that. If I thought I had to be good on the page, I would never write. So I'm like, you can just write shit. It can be terrible, just as long as you get something down, because then you can fix it later. So all 3 of my novels are placeholders for a good novel someday. But like that gets me writing. Like, be bad. It's fine to be bad. Just keep writing.
So many people, again, particularly adults, are really uncomfortable with that idea, with putting stuff down that is not good, quote unquote. And you have to be. I'm part of a writing group, and one of my writing partners is hyper obsessed with getting it right the first time. And for years we've been telling him that's just not how it works. And he still hasn't finished his first project because he's so consumed by this idea of perfection from the get-go. So just get really, really comfortable with writing stuff that's good, writing that's bad, stuff that's nonsensical, non-linear, but just get used to writing. And then again, have a place in which to put your words. Literally, a physical place.
No, what's also surprising is like with the first book, like I'm not someone like I don't slave over sentences at all. I like kind of just like serve the characters. But it was also like how many mistakes. Like when they brought like for the copy edit, it was like, you know, St. Patrick's Day Massacre. It was like red, just red everywhere. Like, and I know they're like, get your manuscript perfect. Mine wasn't perfect. You know, I mean, they didn't really change a lot of the content, but it's like I'm not a grammarian, I'm a writer. You know, so it doesn't have to be like, if you're worried about that, like fuck that. Just like, I say fuck a lot. Just like write it. Just like write it. Like don't worry about that stuff.
And on that, also talking about a writer's group or an editor. So I've been really, really lucky. My editor at DC Comics is like my muse. She gets me, she understands what I'm going for, and she brings out the very best in me. It is very, very helpful to not feel alone, right? So you want to do this thing, you want to create this thing, find someone else who also wants to do the same thing, create a group that you can check in. Having to turn in a page a week or 5 pages a week for someone else is an incredibly good motivator. And or find someone, again, a muse, in my case, a really strong editor that doesn't want to change your work, but wants to help you, wants to guide you to make the best work possible.
My writing group is the most important thing in my life. And it's not even that they give me great advice or anything like that. I have a deadline every Tuesday night from 7 to 9, and I wrote all 3 of my novels in there. And they definitely give good feedback sometimes, but it's not about that. It's about having this supportive group. They always start every comment, every time we read up to 10 pages out loud every week if we want. We don't have to. And they always start comments, we all start comments with, I love this. It's like pretty much that's how we start. Even when it's not great or whatever, it's like, I love this. This is great. And I love this, and this. I got a little confused here, there, here. But it's even not about that. It's like, oh, I have these people that are there. I have an audience. That's also me as like, who was an actor when I was younger. I have an audience every week to read this to. And that's like the most important thing. I could not live without a writing group. So that. Good question.
I wanted to do a different take about writing like that because I have 4 children's books in the Library of Congress, and all of mine, because I'm a terrible typer, and I can't sit at the computer and put letters on the paper, I stream of consciousness spoke all of my stuff into my phone to get dictation. You'll be amazed at how much information you can just get out of you on the paper that you forget 2 minutes later. When you get out of the car from the grocery store, oh, what was I thinking about? Constantly talking to your phone. Don't figure out what it has to be or where it has to go, but if you can get this stuff that you think is what's coming to you for some powerful reason you need to get out of you, get it down as soon as you can in a text. At least it's out of you and in black and white, as opposed to you going to that computer to sit down and then to try and harness all of that stuff that was around you now. A lot of people can't do that. So it's not easy if you have an idea, you start chatting about it. It's a family, it's Christmas, it was a big fight, it was a fire, we escaped in a hot air balloon, whatever it is, just get it out of you as soon as you can. So when you're in the shower, you're walking the dog, whatever it is, just as soon as stream of consciousness is coming, speak it into your phone into a note section. You'll be so glad you do. It will really help your ability to structure your story, get rid of the garbage, reinvent personalities, whatever. But I found that if you speak it, it's a lot more powerful than somebody who's talented to sit at the computer and type it. I couldn't do that, but I'm able to articulate something, so try that. Okay. It's a lot quicker.
Okay, we get one
more question. Anyone?
One question. How would you relate your book to older novels about Fire Island, like Dancer from the Dance or Forgetting Elena?
I haven't read Forgetting Elena. I have read multiple times Dancer from the Dance, which is an amazing book. Very much. It actually almost was a plot point in my book. It was a book that initially Howie gave to Joe It was like going to be on his, like, when they build the attic room for Joe, they had that book on his nightstand, and it was going to be this kind of like this talisman, because it's almost a response to Dancer from the Dance. Dancer from the Dance is this amazing book written in 1978, or placed in 1978, before the AIDS crisis, which is kind of about the, you know, the hedonistic ennui of like being, you know, a beautiful person in New York and Fire Island. And has kind of like a bleak, almost homophobic ending towards it, in my opinion. I think it's a beautiful book, but like when he kind of like lauds the heterosexual world is so much better than the gay world, I'm like, again, fuck you. But it's one of my favorite gay books, and it's incredible. But it really, I was playing a dance with Dancer from the Dance with this book. Great question. Thank you.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you,
Thank you, Phil.
Oh, one thing, I'm going to ask you a favor. You're going to think I'm crazy. Whether I dated you, whether you're a family member of mine, if you come up and ask me to sign the book, please say your name. Like, seriously, Joe, say